In one of my more previous videos that I'm showing on screen, I was overtly negative in that video, which in my opinion, rightfully so. And while that resonated with a lot of people, it was really negative and I try to stay away from that, but I think rightfully so, I should be able to express my opinions on the game of Dead by Daylight. So in this video, we're going to change it up a little bit and talk about the positive things I see in current Dead by Daylight and the future of DBD. And if I'm being honest, it was a little hard to find a bunch of things, and the fact the things I did bring up are like the positive of current Dead by Daylight is pretty tough, but we'll just go ahead and hop into it. Let's hop into the first positive topic of today's video. Killer queues. And I know that's like a bad start and it sounds kind of condescending, sarcastic, whatever, but the fact that killer queues are this fast is really nice as a killer main. Instead of waiting a few minutes or sometimes up to 5, I'm pretty much just insta-loading into a game rather than if like I try to play Survivor on the Haunted by Daylight event. It takes minutes sometimes, again, like I said, up to 5 minutes, but the killer queue is absolutely phenomenal right now. So even though it's in a bad state, I get to games quicker, which is super nice. Sticking on to the Haunted by Daylight specifically, we used orange. I thought that was actually really good, dude. Like I said, even though I was being negative in that other video, the orange in the void does look really good. I wish there was still more around the map, but for the void itself specifically, I think it was a good add to the orange. Being able to get to like the basin or whatever to put your points in, it not being on a second level is really good. And then for the final thing for the Haunted by Daylight, I've been having a decent time in the queue. It's better than normal queue, I'll be honest, is the loading screen for Haunted by Daylight is simply peak, dude. I wish it was like somehow like put into the game a little bit more other than a loading screen, but having that type of vibe. But the vibe alone from the loading screen is absolutely sick. 10 of 10 for sure. But hopping into the next topic, which I do think for the future of Dead by Daylight could be huge, is the fact behavior recognize the strongest versus weakest killers with the unique hook bonus system. Now, it never made it to live, but I do think the fact that, you know, just to list out what they have, the Blight, Dark Lord, Ghoul, Hillbilly, Krasue, and Nerfs are getting lesser effects than what lower tier killers would with that 20% and 10% haste instead of 10% gen kick and 5% haste for those S tier killers. And I think that's a really good thing that could come into the future of Dead by Daylight that could bring this whole pallet density situation into a better spot. I think that pallet density simply should fluctuate depending on the killer you're playing. So if I'm playing, if I'm playing Ghoul, I should expect more pallets. If I'm playing Krasue, I should expect more pallets. If I'm playing Trapper, I should expect the least amount of pallets there's possibly able to spawn on a map. Now, obviously, just example might be a little rash, but the fact that that was acknowledged is a really huge thing. And I think the unique hook system could come back whenever the kind of anti-camp, anti-tunnel, all that stuff, anti-slug all comes back into play. But the fact that they acknowledged it, and with this whole pallet density update, I mean, they've made no posts about it, so it seems like it's here to stay. Being able to use that percentage base that they use for pallet spawns, depending on the killer that you're playing, I think could be huge. And then eventually getting to this unique hook bonus system with a rework anti-whatever mechanic, I think that could be really big for the game. Since the fluctuating kind of base kit percentages / pallet density, whatever could be implemented, I guess we should just go to the anti-mechanics implemented in the PTB that obviously never made it to live. I think they were definitely way over-tuned. And because sometimes tunneling a survivor off the hook is really all you have to win. I think it was just a little bit too much hand-holding, really. And the biggest thing was the 10-second hook status delay to the HUD. I think that was one of the most horrible changes like ever. First off, it didn't make much sense to me, and I just think it looked bad on the game HUD itself. I just think that was just a really bad change. And that's like the biggest thing. If all of it went live, okay, I don't love it, but the fact that your hook status or the unhook status was delayed 10 seconds was absolutely horrible. And then that's same with the tunneling penalties. Like the survivor dies to a hook action or mori before 6 total hook states, the remaining survivors gain a 25% repair speed bonus. Way too much, dude. I think it should have been probably 5, because if you go 2-2-1 on survivors, that's 5 hook states right there instead of having to go like 2-2-2 and then hook another survivor. Unless it was like if you hit at 6 hooks or more instead of it being more than 6 hooks type of thing. I didn't get to use it all that much because it's only ever hit the PTB, but that was like that was horrible, man. I'm gonna be honest, like that was pretty tough. I mean, same with like the survivor that was previously hooked and killed or sacrificed with the hook action directly resulting in them dying, lose the ability to block all that. I know it sounds negative, but I promise these are good ideas. They just need to be properly implemented. It is behavior we're talking about, so we got to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, to be honest. But I think the ideas are very good. Now it's about simply getting the execution down. And I do think for the health of the game for, years to come, these things are good. It's just about getting the correct percentages and what you're adding to those base kit features. Just more put, essentially, just better ways to implement them into the game instead of just absolutely nuking one side. Good ideas, bad execution. They said they're going to, kind of come back on a later date with these changes. We'll see, but I do like the idea of them. So that's one of my positives. I think the idea is good. Now, this one might be a bit of a stretch to some of you since the current state of DBD as killer, with what you're facing is kind of forcing you to do this, but all the gen perks like synergy and the way you're able to run them, it's in a decent spot, man. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but let me just try to explain a little bit. I think the most obvious one is now Hex Ruin is really good. I think Hex builds are back. I don't if they ever left, but 150% for Hex Ruin. Obviously super sick. Put that with Pain Res, put that with Surge, whatever you want. I think that is a very good add or like a combo. Pop Oppression. I mean, dude, Oppression is one of my favorite perks there is. Oppression, DMS, Oppression, DMS, and Pop. Eruption, Pop, DMS, freaking Oppression. There's a whole bunch of things, dude. Pain Res and Surge alone. I think there's a lot of good options. I mean, Deadlock, you could throw it in there. That way you don't have to kick anything. But I do think with Oppression now being where it's at, as well as Hex Ruin, I actually think the being able to lock down generators with your combo of perks is more varied than what it's been, rather than, Pop Pain Res or I don't know. Really, Pop Pain Res was kind of just the straight up go-to. DMS has been for a while with Pain Res DMS because of the 50 seconds, now down to 35, but still a very good perk. Do not get that wrong. The 15-second nerf to DMS took way too long, in my opinion, because the 50 seconds on a gen, 50 seconds of Dead by Daylight worth of gen time is a crazy amount of time. So I do think that was a good nerf on its own, but being able to vary your gen protection perks, I think it's a good idea. Another good idea that I didn't even write this down, but while I'm talking about putting things together, a while back they were trying to do the haste hindered change effects or whatever it was, but because what they were trying to implement into the game wasn't enough for like general value per perk depending on the haste or hindered, it wasn't enough. It pretty much made no sense to take away stacking for the two effects that that you could possibly stack now, but in that PTB or whatever it wasn't possible. And I think that idea is good. I hated on it at the time, but the more I think about it, if they would have just simply overhauled everything that had to do with haste and hindered and changed its value in that one patch, I think it would have been better, because then you could actually see where they could be going with the value changes. But since they only did a handful, and if I can find it, I'll be sure to put it on the screen. I don't quite remember what PTB that was, but if they would have implemented that better, I think that is a great idea, just poorly executed, which seems to be a common denominator in all this. Good idea, bad execution. Who would have thought? Behavior. I promise I'm being positive, but I do think that was good. I know I kind of bundled those two together with gen protection perks and the variety of them, and that hindered haste effect PTB, whenever that was. Both great ideas. Well, the gen variety is good, and then the extra one, which I just decided to throw in there, is a good idea, and I think in the future could be very good. It's just about getting it down and fully overhauling. Back like a few years ago when we had that full-blown perk overhaul, that's what it would have to be for the haste and hindered and all the other ones with those status effects that they didn't want to be able to be stacked. I think that would be good. Just has to be executed better. Very good idea for the future of Dead by Daylight, though. I have 3 points that I have bulleted board down or pinned, whatever, I don't know. But the Krasue nerfs. Now, while the buff from the PTB was weird, and I know a lot of people were like, she's bad on the PTB, but like I'd never felt that way. And then she got buffed from PTB to live, and I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but I'm down. And she was so buffed. Obviously, she was probably the best killer in Dead by Daylight. But the big thing was the nerfs that they did were in like a timely manner. They pretty much got to the issues pretty quick. I mean, we got to the bug fixes or whatever relatively fast. And then if I'm not mistaken, we went back-to-back weeks with the bug fix. And then after phase 2 of her nerfs, I think they wanted to kind of wait, so we haven't changed anything yet since that phase 2 nerf, which I did do a video on, link down below, maybe, unless I forget. but I do think that the fact they were actually on their game when it came to that specifically, great idea. Unfortunately, you know, the whole palette density thing, I'm not even gonna bring it up because it's a positive video. We're talking positivity, rainbows and sunshine. I do think the fact they were able to get to the Krasue's obvious issues so fast, I think that is a very good thing. And then to split up the last two, I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do right offhand. Like I said, and all these, none of them are scripted. It's just things I have bulleted for that I want to talk about, and I'll just rant and you know, slowly get to my point through the more ranting and rambling that I do. But the next one is kind of good, kind of bad, and I do have some stuff written for this because I wanted to make sure I didn't like mistakenly speak on how I wanted to spin this. But essentially, Myers rework, lazy, yes, but it was so much fun in the PTB, and then from live, or from PTB to live, it's dog crap, dude. We side graded him. He went from like maybe going from D to C to like staying in D. What the heck, man? I just do want to say though, I did like positive, if that's the positive bullet point, it's the fact that the change, it was lazy, was a lot of fun. And I do think the change when they put him into PTB was a lot of fun. Putting him into live with the nerfs that he did, less fun, but I do like the idea. Some people might not like the dash slop. I thought it wasn't bad, man. I'll be honest. I think Old Myers was relatively annoying, or not annoying, just not super fun to play, to be honest. So that's like it's good, it's bad, but it's more just really about like getting. I would just take him back to PTB form. I didn't see an issue with it. I thought it was kind of ridiculous we didn't get him like in the PTB form to live. Like, let's just, instead of like waiting forever, which I think they did say they were eventually going to change him back to, or at least tweak him. I think you should just not tweak, just put him back to PTB form, man. It's not like he's going to be an S tier killer. Let's make him fun, make him better. And yeah, I did like it. It's just the execution part, man. You know, the execution part. I stuttered a little bit there. Kind of good, kind of bad. I just wanted, you know, kind of touch on that. I thought the Myers rework was good, but I think from PTB to live with the rework changes a little bit, the tweaks, was bad. And to end it all off, I think I'm gonna go with Chaos Shuffle here. If you don't know, I am a huge advocate for Chaos Shuffle. I think it's the best side game mode pretty much in all of Dead by Daylight. 2v8 in you know, theory is a good game mode, but the fact you have to wait so long to play killer, and I really only play killer, and I don't really care about playing survivor, I just think it kind of muddles the water for the game mode itself, because then obviously 2v8 doesn't just affect the 2v8 queue, it affects the entire game. We all know that by now, but by now that makes sense, I think. But the Chaos Shuffle that's coming, you know, whenever it does next, I think it goes 2v8 and then Chaos Shuffle's coming back, is the way they're implementing it this time. I know it took a while for me to get to that, but essentially what I've been asking for this entire time is everything should be random, from the items to the killer add-ons to maybe even the offerings. I don't know exactly how that would work, but I think even that. But they're actually making the items and the add-ons for killer random, as well as obviously the random perks. I do think this is a great change just to see how it goes. I've been asking for it for a long time. Ever since really Chaos Shuffle came in, I just thought it's kind of weird you have a full Chaos Shuffle randomizer mode, but not everything's random. Everything should just be random, to be honest, and I think that is going to be super fun. Now, is it going to maybe hinder what killers get specifically picked for Chaos Shuffle because of the palette density update? That's for a different topic, different time, because positivity. Yes, it will be affected, like the palette density will maybe affect the fun of the game mode slightly, but the fact that the survivors can't pick what they bring, I think will kind of help with that. But if you're trying to play, I don't know, let's just go back to Myers and Chaos Shuffle, and you get hoed with no chase perks or anything, and they get really good perks, or a good map with the new palette density update, could hinder your fun on the Chaos Shuffle mode. But I do like the fact that they're actually bringing a full randomizer game mode into Dead by Daylight with the new Chaos Shuffle iteration. And hopefully all that came out decently well. I don't talk very well, you know this, but that's my positivity points for Dead by Daylight in the current state and what's in the future. Some of them might be a stretch, I do know, but I took a few days after that video, because I think by the time this comes out, it'll been like 6 or 7 days since that video came out where I was real negative. And I tried to take some time to really think about what I thought positively out of Dead by Daylight, and this is pretty much what I came up with. I think more of like the potential of future changes is like the biggest thing that could be good for Dead by Daylight, rather than the current Dead by Daylight, is kind of what I've slowly come up with as I'm finishing out this video with a non-scripted intro. Plus that Haunted by Daylight intro, or the Haunted by Daylight load-in screen, is so fire, dude. It really is. But let me know down below if you got this far into the video, if you agree with what I had to say. What do you positively think about the Dead by Daylight current form or potentially what future changes could come. I know that other video, like I said, resonated with a lot of people, but also a lot of people did not appreciate me being negative and came into my hour count of Dead by Daylight as if that's why I could or couldn't talk about a certain topic, which I found funny, but you know, at the end of the day, it is whatever. But yeah, I'm out here. Let me know down below, like I said, what do you think is positive about Dead by Daylight? No negativity, none in the comments, absolutely none. I'm out of here. I hope to see you on the next video. Deuces.